Hello everyone, this is part 28 of What If Naruto Was the Child of the Moon in Percy Jackson, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Father. A young boy called out to a frail man as the two massive oak doors moaned open and the poor old man was flung in the room. This man wore tattered robes. His hair was streaked with gray, and his beard was long and curly. For some reason, his nose was broken, and his lips were bloody. The boy cradled the old man in his arms. "What did they do to you?" He turned to the guards responsible with a murderous look. "I'll kill you." "There will be no killing today," a voice came. The guards at the door parted, revealing a tall man in white robes. He was wearing a thin, gold circlet on his head. His beard was pointed like a spear blade. "You helped that Athenian kill my Minotaur, Daedalus," he addressed the old man with eyes glittering cruelly. "You even turned my daughters against me. You did that to yourself," the now named Daedalus croaked. Not happy with his prisoner answering back, the king ordered the guard to plant his boot on the poor old man's chest, causing him to writhe in agony. Worried about his father's well-being, the boy cried, "Stop. You love your maze so much that I decided to let you stay here," the king continued. "This will be your workshop. You will make me new wonders. Amuse me. Every maze needs a monster. You will be mine." "I don't fear you," the old man answered, as he recovered from the beating he was given. The king's face morphed into a cold smile. "But you love your son, don't you?" He swept out of the room, letting the threat hang in the air. Not long after, the doors were shut, leaving the father and son in complete darkness. "What shall we do?" the boy moaned. "They will kill you, father." Daedalus swallowed with difficulty but tried to smile for his son. It was a gruesome sight with the blood everywhere and all. "Take heart, my son," he gazed up to look at the stars. They shone brightly in the dark of the night, a reminder of the outside world. I will find a way." Camp Half-Blood. The excitement that finding the labyrinth's entrance within their own camp was cut short when Chiron sent everyone away to sleep, but everyone found it hard to doze off. "Why don't you try falling asleep when there's a looming threat to your home and your well-being?" But as soon as the sun was ruling the skies once again, Chiron called for a war council. Usually, this council would be held in the rec room, but today, the activities director decided to hold it in the sword arena. Everything was normal, well, except for the massive mastiff chewing on a life-sized rubber while you discuss the fate of your home. The heads of the camp stood at the front by the weapons rack. Clarice and Annabeth, an unusual combination, sat next to each other leading the briefing. Tyson and Grover made sure to sit as far away from each other as possible. The others present, the head counselors of the cabins and Juniper, sat around the table. And since this meeting involved the safety of the camp, the head of security, Argus, was also attending the meeting. The whole time the two girls were talking, he trained his eyes on them, making them go bloodshot from the staring. "Wait, so let me get this straight," Silena told the tree nymph. "You've seen Luke use the entrance multiple times, but you didn't say anything until now." "Hey, how should I know that cave was important?" Juniper protested. "It was a cave. Caves are yucky." She cringed at the thought. "She has good tastes," Grover sighed dreamily. "I wouldn't have paid attention, but you know, it was Luke." The dryad blushed a darker shade of green. "Forget I said anything," the satyr huffed jealously. "And you believe Luke would dare use the labyrinth as an invasion route?" Quintus asked as he polished his sword. Now Quintus," Kakashi said. "They may be onto something here." From what Clarice and Annabeth had said, Luke had been scouting the labyrinth all this time, Naruto said. "And if they succeed in looking for the string, they'll be able to sneak a whole army of monsters right underneath our noses without having to worry about the boundaries protecting us." Clarice completed the sentence left hanging. "How did you know he was sending scouts?" Connor asked. "Because I found one," Clarice answered. "Who?" The other stole asked, the question on everyone's mind. "Chris Rodriguez." It was Chiron who answered. "Wait, you mean, you found Chris in the maze?" Travis's eyes widened when they heard about their missing cabin mate. "Is he okay? What happened to him?" Connor asked. Clarice shot the both of them a glare, causing the twins to drop the question. "The point is, Luke has been searching for Daedalus's workshop." "Daedalus, the guy who created the maze?" Percy asked like he was remembering something. Yes, the greatest architect, the greatest inventor of all time, Annabeth explained with a bit of sparkle in her eyes as he talked about her idol. He's the only one who can navigate the maze perfectly. If they manage to convince him to help them, they wouldn't fumble about looking for paths leading to the camp. They wouldn't risk losing minions to the traps in that maze. They'll be able to navigate perfectly and safely. First, to Camp Half-Blood, then to Olympus after wiping us out. The whole arena fell silent, save for the squeaking produced by Mrs. O'Leary's yak. They sat in silence contemplating their fate, and the fate of their camp. After a few seconds of silence, Charles Beckendorf spoke up. Back up a second, did you just say, convince Daedalus? He lived 1,000 years ago. Shouldn't he be dead? Coming to this world, there are a lot of things I didn't think was possible or would ever think existed, Kakashi spoke up. Let us approach this as if anything could be possible. For all we know, he could be listening in on us from somewhere. The Jonin eyed his fellow counselor as he spoke. Quintus was taken aback by his fellow counselor, but he hid it well. He cleared his throat. You may be right. But didn't the old stories say he fled into his maze all those years ago? There certainly were, how do you put it, disturbing rumors about the ancient architect, but no one truly knows what truly happened to him. The centaur answered the question, his hooves clopping nervously on the stone floor. One of them though suggests that he disappeared into the labyrinth at the end of his life. He might still be there. Which is why we have to explore the labyrinth ourselves, Annabeth announced. We will have to find Daedalus's workshop and convince him to help us and not them. And if Ariadne's string really does exist, then we make sure it does not fall into their hands. Wait, Percy spoke up. If the attack is our problem, then why not just blow up the entrance? Grover brightened up at the suggestion. Why didn't we think of that in the first place? I'll get the dynamite. Not so fast, goat boy, Clarice said, grabbing the satyr by the scruff of his neck, preventing him from going anywhere. It's not that easy. I tried it before, and it didn't work. In any case, we'll just fight, Naruto's cousin spoke up. We know where they'll appear from, so we know where to blow them up when they appear. We will certainly set up a defensive line surrounding the rock formation, Chiron nodded. But we are severely outnumbered. We might not survive the fight even if we prepare. Whatever good mood the campers woke up with was immediately shattered by that piece of news. It was rare for Chiron to sound so pessimistic like this, which didn't help the already sour mood. Our only chance is to get to Daedalus's workshop before they do, Annabeth insisted on her plan. While we're at it, we find the string and keep it off Luke's hands. You seem to believe in this plan of yours, Naruto spoke up. If you really think that it would work, then I'm in. I'll help you. We'll save the camp, no matter what it takes. That's a promise, and I never go back on my word. In that case, we'll need a quest, and I know just who to lead it. Chiron turned to Annabeth, but before he could speak, Percy voiced out his concerns. Whoa, hold up, how do we navigate through it? He said. How do we know we can even do it? I've studied the labyrinth's architecture for years now, she countered. If anyone has even a remote idea of how to find our way through the maze, that would be me. Do you think that's enough? Percy argued. It has to be. Annabeth snapped. Well, it isn't. Percy yelled as well. That's enough. Naruto raised his voice, stopping the two arguing demigods. If Annabeth says she can do, then she'll lead us through it. But we have to put our trust in her. Percy, the blonde, didn't even give him time to speak, effectively putting a stop to the subject. Now Chiron, if you will. As I was saying, the said centaur cleared his throat. Annabeth Chase, it is your turn to lead a quest. Now child, go visit the oracle. A few minutes later, it was hard waiting for Annabeth's first visit with the oracle to finish. Naruto was worried about his friend. He already had his chance at meeting his uncle Seer, but it didn't help with easing his anxiety. It didn't help that there were these rumors that campers had gone insane or died in fear. Naruto watched Percy pace the arena for the umpteenth time. He had lost count after the 15th pass in favor of thinking about Annabeth. Not even Quintus's and Argus's argument was able to ease their worry one bit. Curiosity did not hit them one bit. The blonde looked up from his thoughts to see that Percy wasn't in the arena anymore. He must have been so deep in thought that he had missed when his brother had left. Checking his watch, he noticed that a considerable amount of time had passed. It shouldn't have taken this long to get the prophecy from the oracle. Something must have happened. He decided to go see for himself what happened. He reached Big House's front parlor. It was strangely quiet. Or maybe he was just used to seeing the old wine god playing cards and complaining about ungrateful demigods and the lack of wine in his diet. It was so quiet, in fact, that every squeak from the floorboards echoed through the building. He walked through the hallways of the big house towards the stairs. He remembered the route he took to get to the oracle's room in the attic. Before he climbed the stairs, though, something broke through the silence. It was soft, as if someone didn't want to be heard, but through Naruto's trained ninja senses, he could hear it as clear as day. It was the sounds of sobs. Naruto listened further. Not long after, a voice came. "It's okay. Try a little more nectar." It almost sounded like Claris, but the sobs say otherwise. Naruto never heard her like this before. "You're an illusion, Mary." Naruto recognized this one. He stayed with this guy way back when he still lived in cabin 11. It was Chris Rodriguez. "My name's not Mary. My name is Claris. Don't you recognize me? Please remember." "No. It's so dark. Help me." The blonde sighed. He felt like he was eavesdropping on something that he shouldn't have. He decided to continue on the way and give the couple privacy. He had never heard Claris speak with such tenderness in her voice before, not even to her siblings, so he was surprised to hear her talk to someone this way. He decided to help him out. The rest of the way, he carried his feet with practiced ease so that the two wouldn't hear him skulking around. As he left them to their own devices, he thought to himself, "Maybe I could get Mr. D to help you, Chris, not for you but for Claris." As he neared the ladder to the attic, he heard a sob. It sounded like someone had just finished crying. It was followed by creaks and footsteps. Not long after, Annabeth descended the stair with her eyes a little red. "What are you doing here?" she asked sternly. "You're not supposed to be here." I know, but I was worried about you," Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. "So, are you okay?" Annabeth felt touched by the gesture and looked away in embarrassment, but she still answered the question, "I'm fine." "I see." Naruto knew that she really wasn't. He didn't pry any further. "I guess we should head back." "We should, but what about you?" the quest leader asked in worry. "You might get in trouble." Naruto just winked at her and disappeared in a golden flash that was subsequently followed by a puff of smoke. Annabeth shook her head and left the big house. War Council. Annabeth walked up to her fellow camp counselors. She met eyes with Naruto, who winked at her. Chiron was the first to greet her though. "My dear. You made it." Her face was unreadable, but she still spoke up. "I got the prophecy. I will lead the quest to find Daedalus's workshop." Nobody cheered. Contrary to what they showed though, everyone was happy for Annabeth. She lived in the camp for far longer than anyone present in this council, so it was about damn time that she get a quest of her own. The problem was, this was an extremely dangerous quest. "What did the prophecy say, my dear?" "Remember, the wording is important." Chiron asked. Funny, why did this sound familiar?" Well, you shall delve in the darkness of the endless maze. The dead, the traitor and the lost one raise. You shall rise and fall by the ghost king's hand. The child of Athena's final stand. Everyone stared at her, waiting for her to state more lines, but she seemed reluctant to share. "The prophecy doesn't sound complete," Chiron said. "Are there any more lines?" Annabeth shifted uncomfortably. "Something about destroy with a final breath, then that's it, I think." Naruto gave her a skeptical look. He knew that Annabeth had a good memory, so he knew that she didn't forget the lines. Still, he didn't pry any further. Prophecies tend to be depressing, so he assumed it had something to do with it. "I see." Chiron had the same idea as Naruto. "Just know, child, prophecies have double meanings." "Yes, I know," the girl's voice trailed off. "But we have good news." Grover spoke up. "The lost one, if that's not Pan in the prophecy, then I don't know what is." Percy, ever the optimist, added, "Yeah, but the line also mentions the dead and the traitor." "Them, not so great." "And who's this ghost king?" Charles added. "He doesn't sound good either if you would fall by his hand as the prophecy says." Percy and Naruto looked at each other. It was like their minds synced. Was Nico involved in this quest somehow? Naruto sighed. "The final stand doesn't sit right with me. I'll go with you to make sure this isn't yours." Annabeth smiled. "Thank you. That's two, who else?" Kakashi asked. You usually do it with 3 in a quest, right? Count me in, Percy volunteered. The quest leader nodded. Grover, you too. The wild god is waiting. Earlier, the satyr was adamant about going underground, but the prospect of encountering the wild god in this quest seemed to wash away his fears and renew his vigor. Right. I'll pack extra recyclables, he shouted excitedly. And Tyson too, Annabeth said. I need you. Yay. Blow up thingy's time. Tyson cheered. Wait, Annabeth, Chiron warned the girl. You should think twice about this one. You know that the ancient laws states that a hero is only allowed 2 companions. 3 is a sacred number. Relax, Chiron, I'll watch over them as I always do, Naruto said. Naruto has always been unpredictable, Chiron, Kakashi vouched for his student. We'll all come back. Naruto gave him a pose that gave the silver-haired Jonin shivers. It reminded him of Guy somehow, except without the glistening teeth and evil genjutsu behind him. I never go back on my word. Chiron sighed. He had trained so many heroes with as much confidence as Naruto had, but they still met untimely ends. Very well, he reluctantly said. The members of the quest shall prepare, and at dawn, we shall send you off to the labyrinth. Somewhere in the woods of Yellowstone. Hunters of Artemis Camp. Talia Grace, the newly appointed lieutenant of the hunt, watched over her sisters as they set up camp. They had just finished taking down another monster from Tartarus. It seemed that there were more of them than usual, and their prey was getting more dangerous as the inevitable war drew closer. They were currently resting in their base camp somewhere deep in the forests of Yellowstone. It was then this feeling of unease snaked its way into the lieutenant's stomach. Her head whipped to the direction of Camp Half-Blood. This went unnoticed to her companion, Zoe Nightshade. Is something the matter? She asked. I don't know, Talia shook her head. She was unsure of what to tell her. Ever since I was turned into that tree, it's like I was connected to camp somehow. Now. What are you feeling? Zoe pried further. It's a foreboding feeling, she tried to explain. It's like the camp is in danger somehow. Zoe frowned. She still didn't hold any attachment to the camp, but it was still home to her mistress's son. Shake it off, for now, she advised. That is why we are out hunting for the monsters. I guess you're right, Talia nodded. She turned to the rest of the hunt and announced. Rest up, fellow sisters. When we get back to work, we are doubling our efforts. We are doing this for our brother. The next day, in the wee hours of the morning. Knock knock knock. Naruto awoke to the knocking in the other room. He was having a dreamless sleep like in most nights, which he was thankful for. You didn't need to have dreams clouding your mind before a quest. The blonde groaned as he got up and opened the main door with a yawn. He was surprised to see that Bianca was responsible for the knocking. Bianca, what's wrong? Naruto asked, the worry creeping up in his voice. Hey, Naruto, Bianca greeted, trying to find the words to tell him. See, can we talk inside? I had this dream. Naruto sensed the distress in the girl's voice. He wanted to invite the girl inside, but he knew the rules were strict, and he wasn't sure if his mom would agree to let other people enter her cabin. I don't know, Bianca, you know the rules, Naruto replied, scratching the back of his head. Bianca knew that the blonde would say that, so she decided to tell him right off the bat what this was all about. It's about Nico, she said, causing the boy to widen his eyes. Now, that changes everything, Naruto said. Looking up at the night sky to look at the moon, he made a request, Carson. Are you listening? Can Bianca come in for a while? We really need to talk about something important. It was subtle, but Naruto noticed the moon brighten just a smidge, giving him the answer that he wanted to hear. He beamed up to the moon, showing his signature grin at the moon and thanked his godly parent. You're the best, Carson. Thank you. It's cold outside, he told the girl. Why don't you come in and tell me what happened while I pack up for the quest? I have to get ready in a few hours anyway. The two entered the cabin and went straight to the blonde's separate room. You can sit on the bed, Naruto offered to the girl, which she gladly accepted. Bianca did a quick scan of the room. It was unusually organized. She saw the large cabinet filled with trinkets, the spoils of war from his various quests. There was also one next to it which he opened filled with various clothes. She also noticed 2 mannequins, one held a Chunin vest while the other held a green full-body spandex. So, tell me what happened, Naruto said, breaking the girl from her wonder. Well, you see. Flashback. Nico stood at a graveyard. He watched as gravediggers dug a hole out of the ground. He, himself, dressed in a black cloak in the foggy night despite the warm and humid. Frogs croaked in the background, but he paid them no mind as he clutched a red box with a letter M serving as the handle. Is it deep enough yet? Nico spoke, sounding irritated. It seems that he had been watching the gravediggers for quite some time now. Nearly, my lord, a ghost spoke. Whatever this spirit was, it was standing beside him. But lord, I tell you, all this is unnecessary when you have me for advice. Silence. Nico raised his voice slightly, his irritation already getting to him. I will admit that your advice has been helpful thus far, but I want a second opinion. Is that too much to ask? Very well, my lord, the ghost bowed. Nico said nothing. He just snapped his fingers, causing the gravediggers to stop what they were doing. They climbed up from the newly dug pit, revealing what they truly were. They weren't human. They were skeletons. You are dismissed, the boy said. Thank you. You might as well thank the shovels, the ghost complained sarcastically. They have as much sense in them. Nico was irritated by the ghost's constant talking. He opened the red box and poured the contents into the pit. It contained some chicken with a side of fries along with a little plastic toy. He reached to the bag he placed on the ground. It contained a cup and, instead of drinking it, poured it into the same hole. Let the dead taste again, he chanted. Let them rise and take this offering. Let them remember. In my day, we used live animals for the ritual, the ghost commented again. This will suffice. The dead will not taste the difference. Still, I treat them with respect, Nico said. Can I have the toy instead? The ghost said. After pouring the contents of 3 more red boxes and 3 more soda cups, he began chanting in ancient Greek. As Nico chanted, the soupy mixture in the grave started bubbling. The frothy brown liquid rose to the brim of the pit as if more soda was being added. In addition to that, the mist thickened around them, and the animals were silenced. Just then, dozens of figures rose from the gravestones. They were bluish and humanoid. You don't know your own powers, the ghost said nervously. You summoned too many of them. I know. I've got it under control, Nico said, trying to act tough, but his voice betrayed him. He drew his sword. It wasn't made of either bronze or gold. Nor did it look like it came from steel. Nevertheless, the spirits took the message and retreated. From the crowd, one single figure floated towards the pool of fast food, a literal brave soul. It knelt down and scooped up a piece of French fries. When it stood again, his figure was more solid now. It was a teenage guy wearing Greek armor. He had curly hair and green eyes, a clasp of seashell in his cloak. Speak, Nico ordered. Who are you? The young man frowned as if trying to remember his identity. Then, he spoke, his voice dry like crumbling paper. I am Theseus. Spirits milled around a clearing. They chatted as they watched a soul spirit march forward towards a pit containing some mashed together goop. Just then, a boy, way younger than all of them, spoke. Who are you? Speak. He was so young that most of these spirits didn't respect him at all. What? Being a mere child and all. But there was just something about this child that told them not to mess with him. His aura just screamed authority and respect. Also, there was this spirit with him. I am Theseus, the spirit introduced himself. I know what you're thinking. Theseus is the guy who defeated the Minotaur. How can this guy be him? He's just a kid. Well, I'll tell you. Percy was a kid, and yet, he's gone on life-threatening quests and defeated monsters that could kill a mortal with ease. If you ask me, those depictions of Greek heroes on the artworks were exaggerated anyway. Want proof? Look at a painting of Mr. D, you'll see. Sorry, Mr. D. Anyway, back to the story. How can I retrieve my sister? The kid asked. Do not try. It is madness, the spirit discouraged him. Still, the boy was adamant. He really wanted to find his sister. Just tell me. He snapped. The spirit looked in thought like he was remembering something of long ago. My stepfather died, he threw himself into the sea because he thought I was dead. I wanted to bring him back, but I could not. The ghost that was with the boy hissed, My lord, ask him about the soul exchange. That voice. I know that voice. Theseus's ghost was distracted by the boy's companion. Fool. No, you do not. The ghost denied. Answer my lord's questions and nothing more. The ghost still insisted. No, I know you. Silence. Nico commanded. Why did you speak if you know this spirit will recognize you? He turned back to the conflicted ghost and asked gently, "Tell me, will the quest to the labyrinth help me bring back my sister?" Slowly getting his attention back to the young boy, he answered, "The labyrinth is a treacherous place. Only the love of a mortal girl guided me through it. The string is only part of the answer." Nico nodded. He didn't need any of this. The spirit that was with him could guide him through it. Wanting to know the answers to his question, he spoke, "Is it true? A soul for a soul." "Why yes, but the spectre." Theseus nodded, but it seemed he was still distracted by the voice from earlier. "Just answer the question, you knave." The ghost snapped. Suddenly, the other spirits around them stirred. Something made them restless. "You must release us," Theseus said in a panic. "He comes to find this source of power." Who is coming?" the boy asked. "Wait, my sister. I want to see my sister." The ground then started to tremble, humming with power. Whatever this thing was that was coming, it was full of power. Before anything else could happen, everything went black. With Naruto and Bianca. "And that's when I woke up," the girl finished her story. Naruto hummed in thought as he sealed the last of his things into the scroll. "I don't know what that dream entails for us, but I think your little bro is involved in this quest. In that case, will you?" "You don't even have to ask," Naruto smiled. Bianca lunged at him, wrapping him in a hug. She wanted to be part of this quest, so she, herself, can be involved in reuniting her family, but she knew how much was riding on this quest. "Thank you, Naruto," Bianca said, unwrapping the hug. "You know, I'm always thankful for the jacket you gave me back in my first quest, but," she continued as she sat across the boy. She took off the jacket she was wearing and handed it to Naruto, the symbol of the lion glowing on his back. "A lion shouldn't be kept in its cage, right?" Naruto grinned at the sentiment. "You don't have to, you know." "Please take it," Bianca insisted. "This is the only thing I can do to assist in the quest, so, please." Naruto would have still refused, but looking at Bianca with her pleading eyes made Naruto break his cold exterior. "I can't refuse you if you look at me like that," Naruto chuckled. "Now, come on. I have a quest to complete." Zeus's fist. Everyone was packed and ready for the quest. It was a clear morning, just after dawn. The fog had already burned off, revealing a clear blue sky. Camp lessons would resume today, and more campers were lining up to train from Naruto's sensei, in hopes to get as strong as him. There was crying off on the side. Juniper was gushing over her boyfriend. Would you blame her though? She can't go with him due to her life force being tied to a tree. Despite what she was showing, Juniper tried to stay strong for the sake of her beloved. She straightened the satyr's rasta cap and brushed the goat fur off his clothes. They may be going underground for this mission, but they didn't know what they might encounter. So, they decided that Grover would dress up as a human, just in case. "Before we go," Naruto spoke up, getting the attention of the group. "I'm not sure how we will meet him, but I have a feeling we would meet Nico in this quest." That's great." Percy raised his voice in glee at the news. Even if things weren't sure yet, this was still good news. Whatever drove Nico to leave camp, they would right it and bring him home. Before anyone could say more, Chiron trotted up to them and said, "Well, it appears everyone is ready." Naruto could feel the anxiety in his voice, but he tried to mask it with his upbeat attitude. This was a quest that no one had attempted. He didn't want to dampen the quest's spirit any further. Can I talk to you, Chiron?" Percy suddenly said. "What's on your mind, my boy?" The wise teacher raised an eyebrow. "Alone, please," Percy said, gesturing for the old centaur to follow him. "What do you think that's about?" Bianca asked. "Probably one of his dreams," Naruto said, looking at the two individuals' retreating forms. Naruto turned back to Annabeth. She was giddy. Naruto couldn't blame her. This was the first time she was leading a quest. Anyone would be nervous in her situation. "You good?" Naruto asked. "As good as I'll ever be," Annabeth answered. "I'm just not sure if we really can navigate the maze. I mean, without the string." "Come on." Naruto placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll be fine. You're the smartest girl I know. You'll think of something. Even this whole quest is a whole uncertainty." Annabeth reasoned. "And the prophecy said." She caught herself. She hid the last line from everyone yesterday, and now, she almost revealed it to Naruto. "Yeah, you got us a prophecy," Naruto nodded. "As much as I hate those things dictating our futures, it just says that we'll succeed, right?" And if ever things go wrong, you can count on Naruto to get you out of trouble. Bianca chimed in. Ow. Naruto yelled in pain, as Annabeth socked him on the arm. What was that for? That endless optimism of yours? The daughter of Athena shook her head, but she smiled in the end. Finally calming down, she looked around and noticed that Percy and Chiron had not returned yet. What's taking them so long? She clicked her tongue in annoyance. I'll go check on them. Naruto volunteered and ran towards the direction they went. Luke was talking about raising Kronos, Naruto heard as he walked up to the two. TSK, 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 Naruto shook his head as he heard. This seems important, Percy. Why are you only telling Chiron? Aye. Percy was speechless. He hadn't expected Naruto to come to them. Had they been talking that long? Forgive the boy, Naruto, Chiron spoke for the demigod. He did not want the group to worry more. Considering who's with the quest, he didn't want her to have any more worries. Fine, fine, Naruto said. I'm not really mad. You could have at least told me. After all, I'm your brother. Look, Naruto, I'm sorry, Percy apologized. Don't worry, Naruto said. So, what's up? Remember that golden coffin I told you about? Percy began. Don't tell me Gramps' bits are close to being reformed. Naruto's eyes widened. Percy nodded. Luke mentioned something about a new body worthy of the forges of Hephaestus. Naruto recalled the prophecy. It didn't mention anything about Kronos, unless. He turned back towards the direction he came from. Whatever the case, you have to get to Daedalus first, Chiron said. There's just one thing I do not understand, something about one last soul joining the cause. This does not bode well. Naruto and Percy stiffened, as a chill ran up their spines. Percy insisted that they kept Nico's heritage from Chiron, but why was he acting as if he knew? Had he known all along, or did he find it out somehow? I agree, Percy blurted out, eager to change the subject. We have to get ready now, right Naruto? Yes. Naruto nodded. Annabeth is looking for Percy. One thing though, before we go, the son of Poseidon had to get one last word out. Why do still keep Quintus here? He doesn't seem all that trustworthy. Well, my boy, it is better to have someone you mistrust close to you, so you can keep an eye on him, Chiron explained. Makes sense, Naruto nodded. Now come along, Chiron gestured towards the boys. You still have a quest to complete. The labyrinth. I know we just came down here, but how far along have we gone? Grover asked as he looked uneasily at his surroundings. Shush. Naruto shushed the teeth-chattering satyr. Let Annabeth do her job. It was a dark sewer that Percy and Annabeth instantly recognized upon falling into the hole again. It was a round sewer, constructed with red brick and iron-barred potholes every 10 feet. Out of curiosity, Percy looked through the potholes only to find nothing through it, the hole just open to infinite darkness. Annabeth guided her friends through the tunnel. She decided that they would stick to the western wall. It was a smart plan. If ever they got lost, they could easily backtrack. It was a great idea if they were traversing a normal maze, but this one is alive. For all we know, the way they came from could change under their noses, and they would truly be lost. Naruto couldn't explain it, but the walls had a faint glow to them. The only problem is that everything was mashed together and he couldn't differentiate where it was going. One thing was for certain, they were kind on lost. He wanted to ask if the others could see it as well, but they seemed to be going towards the faint glow. Anyway, everything was going well, until the left wall disappeared. They found themselves in the middle of a circular chamber with 8 tunnels leading out. Does anyone remember where we came from? Grover asked the question that was on everyone's mind. Easy, we turn around, Annabeth said, gesturing to the others to follow. Each of them turned around to a different tunnel, each identical to the other on initial inspection. Are we lost? Tyson asked. No, we're not, Annabeth shook her head. So, where are we going next? Percy asked. The leader thought it over briefly as she compared each hallway. Here, she pointed to one of them. Are you sure? Percy raised an eyebrow. She's right, Naruto confirmed. Something about his vision was giving it away. You can see it too. What are you talking about? Annabeth looked at him weirdly. I just deduced it. You were guessing. Percy raised his voice slightly in disbelief. And no, I wasn't, Annabeth snapped back. Now, come on. Naruto agrees with me, so it's 2 against 1. Grover. Percy looked for support. He nodded. I agree with Annabeth. The sooner we get out of here the better. Tyson. I will follow Percy, the big guy answered. We still have a majority. Annabeth huffed towards the tunnel. Let's go. Naruto shook his head. They were only down here for 5 minutes and they were already fighting. Actually, we're down there for more than that. Grover spoke with unease still in his voice, as if reading Naruto's mind. And why would Pan be down here? This is the farthest from the wild that we've ever been. Don't tell me it's the Lotus Hotel or the Sea of Monsters all over again, Naruto commented. I think mortal senses are dulled in the places of myths like this one. Annabeth guessed. I guess so, Naruto nodded. They continued forward, despite the protests of the two sons of Poseidon. As they trudged on through, the walls got progressively narrow. Just when Percy thought they were about to get squished, the tunnel opened into a huge room. He raised his sword to give his party some light. That revealed a large room filled with mosaic tiles, their colors ranging from red, blue, green, and even gold. There was a frieze that depicted the 12 Olympian gods, that now Naruto and Percy knew was complete bullshit, or the times had just changed that much. I don't know. You decide. There was Poseidon holding his trident in one hand and handing out grapes with his other hand. Zeus was partying with satyrs, and Hermes was flying through the air on winged sandals, although his nose seemed a bit too big. And then, there was the most inaccurate depiction they both saw in the mosaic, the god of wine himself, Dionysus. He stood in there with all his glory, complete with six-pack abs, while he turned grapes into wine. I don't blame the artist though. He probably didn't see the Olympians personally, or he might get smitten if he portrayed them any less. Anyway, also in the middle of the room was a three-tiered fountain. It looked like it hadn't held any water for a long time. What is this place? Percy asked. They look old. Not quite as old as we like, Annabeth said. These are Roman. The mosaic looks about 2,000 years old. Roman. Percy looked at the girl with skepticism. How can we find Roman art when we're in the middle of Long Island? Or we are no longer on Long Island, Naruto said. Remember, we are in the labyrinth. Who knows where this thing has brought us? It's growing, always expanding and adding pieces to it, Annabeth added. It's the only piece of architecture that grows on its own. You make it sound like it's alive, Percy answered. Just as he said that, a groaning sound came from the tunnel in the room. Can we not talk about it being alive while we're down here? Was Grover's whimpering request. Right, Annabeth said. We move that way. She pointed towards the hall that seemed to be made from older architecture, following her earlier argument. There. This time it was Tyson who questioned him. Down the hall with the bad sounds. She nodded. The older architecture is a good sign. His workshop should be in the oldest part of the labyrinth. No one argued, so they forged on into the tunnel with a strange rumbling that scared even Tyson. As they continued on forward, it seemed like the tunnel was playing tricks on them. The older architecture melted into concrete, then to mud, then to bricks. It didn't make any sense at all. Later on, they stumbled into a wine cellar with a bunch of dusty bottles on dusty shelves. It was like they were in somebody's basement, only there was no exit, except for more tunnels. Where it led them, only the gods know where, or not. Later on, the ceiling above them turned to wooden planks. Through the wooden floorboards, they could hear people shuffling about like they were under some kind of bar. It was refreshing to hear the sounds of humans again, but then again, there was no way to get to them. Continuing on their way, it was only a matter of time before they came across their very first skeleton. The poor bloke was dressed in white clothes, some kind of uniform. Beside him was a wooden crate filled with glass bottles. It's a milkman, Annabeth said. Wait, they really delivered milk back then? Naruto asked. They sure did, Percy nodded. Back when Mom was little, like a million years ago. My question is, what is it doing here? Some people wander here by mistake, it was Annabeth who answered. Some come exploring on purpose and never make it back. Still, others are forced to come here. Now you say that, now that we're down here, Grover wailed. What if we never get out of here? I'll never get to see Pan. We're never getting out of here. Calm down, Grover, Naruto said. We're getting out of here alive like we always do. You said something I can't ignore, Percy said. Did you say, forced to come here? The Cretans, Naruto began on a somber note. They used to send people here as human sacrifices. He looks like he has been here for a long time, Percy pointed out. There's dust in the bottle and his fingers look like he had been clawing through the walls. Don't worry, Percy, Tyson calmed down his half-brother. They are only bones. This doesn't scare me in particular, Grover's teeth chattered. I smell monsters everywhere. Don't you smell it? The satyr asked the Cyclops. He got a nod. Lots of monsters. But underground smells like that, monsters and dead milk people. Oh thank goodness, Grover let out a brief sigh of relief, one of his fears being alleviated. I thought maybe I was wrong. After confirming their safety, Annabeth led them deeper into the maze. They came across more crossroads. They first turned right, then left, through a corridor made of stainless steel, then they were back in the Roman tiled room. This time though, they were not alone. Once they were in sight, the man spoke. Well, what is your choice, Annabeth? Don't mind him, another voice came, but the thing is, the voice was coming from the same man. He's terribly rude. Right this way, miss. When this individual came into view, it was confirmed. There was only one man, but he had two faces jutting out of either side of his head, staring over his shoulders. On the side of his head, there was a pair of mirror image ears and sideburns. He wore a dress that made him look like a New York City doorman, a long black overcoat, shiny shoes, and a black top hat that miraculously stayed on his wide head. The man, or whatever it was, had an eager look on his face as if waiting for the quest leader's response. Realizing he wanted an answer from her, Annabeth spoke up, but in the confusion, all she got out was, I don't. Tyson, getting over his shock at the strange individual in front of them, frowned and gave his 2 cents. The funny man has two faces. The man's left face groaned indignantly at Tyson's statement. The funny man has ear, you know. Upon telling off the young Cyclops, it turned back to Annabeth with an eager expression. Come along, miss. Talk to me. No, over here. The right face called out. Don't listen to him. Talk to me. For the first time since entering the room, the other members of the crew noticed the change in the room that they were in just a few moments ago. The room was almost exactly the same as they remembered, save for the pair of exits. Right behind where the two-faced man was standing were 2 doors. Both of them were made of wood, and each of them was locked with huge iron locks. The man held a silver key, presumably to open one of the doors. This key was being passed from one hand to the other. Behind the demigods, as Annabeth struggled to make a decision, the exit disappeared and was replaced by mosaics. One thing was for certain, the only way out of this room was through one of the doors. The exits are closed, Annabeth said. Duh. Both faces said. Where do they lead? She asked in an attempt to narrow down her decision. One leads to the way you wish to go, the right face said encouragingly. The other leads to certain death. The left face added with just as much enthusiasm. Annabeth hummed in thought, but then, it hit her. Wait. I know you. She was agitated now. She was being distracted, and she was nowhere close to coming up with a decision. The only thing she established was this man's identity. You're a smart girl, daughter of Min. He cleared his throat and stopped as if catching himself from saying something that he shouldn't have. Daughter of Athena. Now, make your choice. I don't have all day. Naruto narrowed his eyes. He definitely picked up on the god's slip-up. Yes, if you haven't picked it up by now, this funny man is a god. Anyway, Naruto wanted to bring it up, but the two-faced god was on a roll. Both faces kept trying to talk to the girl who was getting more conflicted at the moment. Gah, was Annabeth's outburst to the constant nagging. Why are you trying to confuse me? Both faces smiled. This is what you always wanted, right? To be in charge with all the decisions are on your shoulders. The right face said. We know you struggle with indecision every day. Sooner or later, you will have to make your choice, and that may kill you, the left face continued. Annabeth was speechless. Thankfully, Naruto spoke up for her. Look here, Lord Janus. I don't know what you're doing here with clearly Greek demigods, but... The now named Janus turned to the blonde shinobi, Naruto Uzumaki, Chunin of the village hidden in the leaves. I know about your promise to your friend. You will soon have to make a choice. Do you have what it takes to make the crucial decision? Janus regarded the blonde. Naruto knew what he was talking about. He knew of what his so-called best friend had given up for power. He even joined the Titan's side. Can he really bring him home, or could he make the hard decision for the sake of this world? As the two demigods struggled with their predicaments, Janus turned back to the girl. One more push and she will budge. Now, Annabeth Chase, what is your decision? I choose. Before she could choose though, a bright light flooded the room. Everyone raised their hands to shield their eyes. When the light died down, there was a woman standing in the fountain. Janus, are we causing trouble again? The lady asked in a stern tone. And no, milady. Yes. Both faces gave different answers. With that, the right face raised his voice and admonished the other face. Shut up. It spoke. The lady raised her eyebrow at the disrespect that the minor god was showing her. Excuse me. No, no, no. Not you, milady. I was talking to myself, the right face said, clearing the misunderstanding up. I see, the lady accepted the excuse. But you do know that your visit is premature. The time has not yet arrived for these demigods to make a decision. Now, either you leave or I turn you into a door and break you down. What kind of door? The left face spoke out unnecessarily yet again, causing the right face to once again admonish. Shut up. Not you, milady. Of course, I'll leave, Janus said and disappeared with a twist of the silver key in his hands. Once he was gone, the lady turned to the quest-goers and smiled. You must be hungry. Come, sit with me. The place was dark and dank, but when this godly woman appeared, the room came to life. Jets sprayed from the fountain even though you would think that the pipes had not held water in a long time. A marble table appeared from thin air, laden with platters of sandwiches and pitchers of lemonade, along with an out-of-place bowl of ramen. Who are you? Percy asked the woman, not really trusting anyone who just appeared out of nowhere at this point. I am Hera, Queen of the Heavens, she introduced herself like only the Queen of Olympus could. We met at the winter solstice last year, but it is nice to finally meet you all without the formalities. There was a long pause. There was a lag in their brains as they tried to comprehend what was happening. What are you waiting for? She raised her hands out and gestured at the food around them. Dig in, dear children. When everyone started to notice their surroundings, they were sitting around the table, with Naruto specifically sitting in front of the steaming bowl of ramen that smelled exactly like his favorite ramen stand in the elemental nations. They studied their food warily. It was only natural. After all, there's no such thing as a free lunch. But their needs got the better of them, and they slowly started to dig into the food. I assume you have some questions for me? She asked with a smile as she watched the children start to consume her offered food. Don't you want to kill us? Percy crudely asked, learning an elbow from Annabeth. What Percy meant, milady, was don't you hate demigods? Annabeth corrected with much more respect in her tone. The goddess scoffed. What gave you that idea? My little spat with Heracles. Honestly, I got so much bad press because of one disagreement. A disagreement? Naruto raised his eyebrows. Didn't you try to kill him, not just once? Hera waved her hands dismissively like they were talking about something minor, not multiple attempts at murder. That's water under the bridge. I admit I may have lost my patience back then. Besides, we had sorted out our issues in marriage counseling. We came to an agreement, most especially after that last incident. The demigods understood who she was referring to, but Percy just had to open his mouth to verify what he knew. It was Talia, right? Or was there someone else? Hera shot him a frosty look, that left Percy to shiver under her gaze. She studied the son of Poseidon, Percy Jackson, one of my brother's children. If I recall correctly, I voted to let you and your friend here live. I hope you don't disappoint me. So, if you're not here to kill us, what are you doing here? Naruto asked. Her expression returned to the motherly smile. Even though my dear husband refuses to see his daughter's reasoning for the impending war, it is inevitable at this point. Janus and the other minor gods had already started to cause trouble around. Don't the minor gods support Olympus? Naruto knitted his eyebrows. Some do, but there are still those who are frustrated at the small parts they play in the universe, the Queen of the Heavens said. I fear some might have already defected to my father's side. That's where Mr. D went, right? To make sure they are still loyal to Olympus. Naruto asked. He remembered hearing about Mr. D leaving for a bit. Hera just confirmed the true purpose of Mr. D's temporary departure. Indeed, Janus, Hecate, and Morpheus, they still sing Olympus's praises, but who knows where their loyalties lie now? Hera stared at the faded mosaic. Believe it or not, even gods can lose faith. They start putting trust in the wrong things. They stop looking at the big picture and start being selfish. As the goddess of marriage, I am used to all the quarreling and squabbling. Look at my own relationship. You have to rise above it and keep your goals in mind. Annabeth was confused. Hera was sounding like those motivational speakers or something. It was just surprising to hear this coming from a god. What are your goals? She asked, getting curious. She smiled, to keep my family whole, of course. At the moment, the best way I can do that is to help you. Zeus doesn't let any of us interfere that much, but once in a century or so, he allows me to grant a wish for a quest one care deeply about. Naruto was suspicious of this. He knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch, especially if it was from the gods. So, what's the catch? Or will you have us do something in between the quest? Naruto asked, expecting something to be asked of them or some kind of consequence. Oh, there's no catch. Hera shook her head. All I ask is you succeed in the quest, so my family can stay together. Now, daughter of Athena, I know you are the leader of this quest. What do you wish? Annabeth thought deeply. Whatever she was going to ask, it must be extremely helpful to this quest. Before you ask, child, a bit of advice, this I assure you is also for free, Hera said, giving Naruto a look of assurance. You delve into the labyrinth to look for its creator. His creation and his invention are of great mystery to me as it is to you. But if you need information on him, seek out my son. There's no one else who favored the great inventor more than my son, Hephaestus. It was like Daedalus was after his heart, and in turn, he was admired by the god of forges. If there is anyone who has kept up with his fate, it would be my son. Then I know what to ask. Annabeth looked decided. I need a way to navigate the labyrinth. The goddess of marriage looked disappointed. You ask for it, but you do not realize that the means is already within your grasp. My brother's son knows the answer. Everyone turned to Percy. You do. Don't look at me, the said demigod protested. I don't know what she is talking about. That's not fair. Annabeth complained. I don't know what it is yet. Child, getting something and having the wits to use it are two different things. Despite being underground, the room shook from distant thunder. That would be my cue. Zeus grows as impatient as usual. Think about what I said. Seek out Hephaestus. I imagine you will have to pass through the ranch. Use all the means at your disposal, however common they may seem. You are already in good hands. She pointed towards the twin doors and they were replaced by twin corridors. The goddess shimmered. I have not taken away your day of choice, child of Athena. I have merely postponed it. Soon, you will inevitably have to make it. Farewell. As soon as she said that, she disappeared into smoke, along with the food and last sandwich that Tyson threw into his mouth. The fountain ceased to function once again and returned to the way it was when they first came into the room. The ambience disappeared. It wasn't a place you would want to have your picnic. Annabeth stomped her foot in frustration. What kind of help was that? Here, have a sandwich, make a wish. Oops, sorry, I can't help you, poof. She said in a poor copy of the goddess of marriage. Poof. Tyson dittoed as he stared at the empty plates in sadness. We aren't completely empty-handed, Grover said, looking at the bright side, which was weird considering how he was acting earlier. According to her, Percy knows something. I swear I don't know what she was talking about. The son of Poseidon tried to convince his friends. Well, there's only one thing left to do, right, Annie? Naruto told their quest leader. The said girl puffed her cheeks in annoyance at the nickname. I told you not to call me that. But Naruto is right. We have to keep going. But which way? Grover asked. Naruto studied the doorways in hopes that he may differentiate the two like the times earlier. But he wasn't able to inspect them carefully. The satyr and the cyclops tensed and stood up at the same time. Left, they both said in a panic. Naruto's eyes widened. They're right. We have to go. Together, they plunged into the left corridor, not wanting to find out what was coming. Good news, there were no twists, turns or side exits. Bad news, the exit of the almost 100-meter corridor was blocked by an enormous boulder. Tyson, Naruto called out as he reared his fist back ready to strike. Together, they slammed into the boulder, and it crumbled down, revealing a doorway. Without further thinking, they entered the room. They never could catch a breath though. Before they could sigh in relief, the dragging footsteps grew louder. Whatever was coming from the right corridor earlier followed them through the left one. Hurry, seal it, Annabeth said in a panic. Naruto blurred into a series of hand signs and the tunnel shook again. A slab of dirt rose from the ground and filled in the gap of the doorway, sealing it. And just as anyone would expect from a sentient maze like this one, the walls blended with slab of earth, making it like it was part of the walls in the first place. Blag. A force slammed into the newly formed wall. Whatever was chasing them tried to take the wall down to get to them. Seeing nothing happen, the creature wailed in frustration. We're good. Naruto fell down on his butt, relieved that they were able to escape. It's trapped. Percy did the same, sighing in relief. Maybe, or maybe we are the ones trapped, Grover said pessimistically. Everyone turned to look at the room behind them. It was a 20-foot cement room and the opposite wall was covered in metal bars. They were inside a cell. What in the Hades? Annabeth tried tugging at the bars. They were sealed shut. Beyond the cell doors that blocked them off from leaving, there were other rows of cells in a ring around a dark courtyard. There were at least 3 stories of metal doors and metal catwalks. It was clear. They were in some kind of abandoned prison complex. Tyson, could you? Percy was about to ask the big guy to break them out of their cell, but Grover shushed him. Listen. Grover ordered. He's right, Naruto agreed. I hear something too. The place was supposedly abandoned, but they heard a deep sobbing echoing through the complex. There was another sound too that came with it. None of them could make out what was being said. All they could hear was rasping, like whoever was talking smoked a ton of cigarettes in her lifetime. Can anyone understand this? Percy asked, hoping that any of his friends could understand. He admittedly wasn't particularly good at ancient Greek, only picking up a few phrases when heard aloud, so he figured it was just that and he didn't get anything. Naruto and Annabeth shook their heads. Even they did not understand. They concluded it was another. Maybe Latin. No, it was something older. It can't be. Tyson's eyes widened. It would appear that he recognized this language. Wait, Grover called out as the Cyclops started to walk to the bars. But Tyson wasn't about to wait for them. He pried the bars open like it was made of silly string. They ran after him through the dark prison. There was almost no light except for a few dim fluorescent lights flickering in the ceiling high above. As they chased after him, Annabeth gained a look of realization. Wait, I know this place. How do you know a prison? Percy asked. Our class went for a field trip here once, Annabeth remembered. This is Alcatraz. The island off the coast of San Francisco, Naruto added. They made it a museum, right? Annabeth nodded. They kept chasing Tyson through the catwalks of the prison when Grover suddenly yelled, "Freeze!" It was so sudden that everyone almost toppled over. Tyson didn't stop, though. He kept going, but Naruto yanked Tyson's hand, pulling him to where the others had chosen to hide. Why did you stop me? Tyson asked in a pleading tone. Whatever he wanted to go to, he was pretty keen on going to it. Naruto got in place at their hiding spot. He peeked and Naruto felt uneasy. Across the courtyard, on the second-floor balcony, was probably the most horrible Naruto had faced in his entire demigod career. The monster was almost like a centaur, but instead of the lower half of a horse, this thing had the lower half of a dragon. It was at least 20 feet long, black and scaly with enormous claws and a barbed tail. Her feet reminded him of the Gorgons. There were hundreds of vipers darting around, constantly looking for something to bite. The most striking thing was the woman's waist, the part where the dragon part met the human, bubbled, and morphed into various animals. It went from the head of a bear to a lion, to a wolf. As big of a guy he is, Tyson was scared. It's her, he whimpered. They listened in on the conversation. It was clearer now than they were closer, but that didn't mean they understood what was being said. It sounded like a weird rumbling language. What language is that? It was Percy who voiced everyone's question. The tongue of the old times, Tyson said nervously. It was what Mother Earth spoke to her children, the Titans, and Elder Cyclopes. Even before the gods were born. Can you translate? Naruto asked. Tyson didn't say anything. He closed his eyes and opened his mouth to speak, but when he did, it wasn't his voice anymore. It was the raspy voice of the giant creature, except it was speaking their language. You will work for the master or suffer, Tyson said, mimicking the voice. I hate it when he does that, Annabeth shuddered, trying to forget a distant traumatic memory. I will not serve. His voice changed to a deep, pained one. Then I shall enjoy your pain, Briares. His voice reverted back to the raspy one. His voice hitched at the mention of the name. Percy had never heard Tyson break character while he was mimicking voices, but this time he let out a strangled gulp and continued in the monster's voice. If you thought your first imprisonment was unbearable, you have yet to feel true torment. Think about that until I return. Whoever that was tromped towards the stairwell, her vipers hissing around her legs like a grass skirt. She spread her wings, something that surprised our heroes. They were massive bat-like wings that she kept folded against her back. She leaped over the catwalk and soared across the courtyard, hot sulphurous air blasting the demigods in the face as they crouched lower into the shadows. Horrible, Grover stuttered. I've never smelled any monster that strong. That was Camp, Tyson said. The Cyclops' worst nightmare. Naruto nodded. I remember the stories. She was the Cyclops jailer during the rule of the Titans. She's sadistic, torturing your brothers and the Hecatonkaias like that. Mommy Cyclops used to scare baby Cyclops with her stories if we were naughty, Tyson added. Back up, Percy waved his hands out in front of him. What's a heca something? Hikatunki res, Annabeth pronounced each word syllable for the son of Poseidon to understand. Or you can call them the 100-handed ones. They're called that because, well, they have 100 hands. Duh. Ow. Naruto let out, earning a punch from the daughter of Athena. Naruto just hugged her playfully as an apology, causing the girl to get red-faced. She cleared her throat as she recovered from Naruto's actions. Anyway, they were the Cyclops' older brothers. Very powerful, Tyson said with a gleam in his eye. As tall as the sky, so strong they could break mountains. And Briares? Naruto inquired. Do you know him personally? We Cyclops look up to our big brothers, Tyson continued in a happy tone. Can we go see him? Annabeth looked at the skies above them, then to the cell where the Hecatonkira was staying. She too was curious to see why someone like Briares would act like this. She turned to his friends. All right, I think we have time to go and take a quick peek before Camp comes back. They approached the cell. The weeping sounds got louder. This time, they were able to see what creature was making the noise. It was a human-sized creature with pale skin, as pale as the color of milk. He was wearing a loincloth like a big diaper. His feet were too big for his body, with 8 toes on each foot, each with cracked and dirty toenails. The upper part was the weird part. To be honest, Janus was pretty tame when compared to this. From his chest sprouted hundreds of arms, living up to his name. There were so many arms, all of them tangled and twirled together. Several of them covered the creature's face as he sobbed. So much for being tall enough to reach the sky, Naruto said. Tyson didn't mind the blonde's snarky remark. He just fell to his knees, calling out the creature's name. Briares. The Cyclops called out. The sobbing stopped to regard what the Cyclops had to say to his older brother. Oh, great 100-handed one, Tyson pleaded. Help us. Briares looked up, his face long and sad. His nose was crooked and his teeth were bad. His eyes were completely brown, no white sclera or black pupils, like his eyes were formed out of clay. Run while you can, young Cyclops, he said miserably. I cannot even help myself. You are a 100-handed one, Tyson argued. You can do anything. Briares wiped his nose with 5 or 6 hands. Naruto watched in awe as several others fidgeted with bits and pieces of scrap metal and wood from a nearby bed. It was simply amazing to watch as his hands built small toys almost like they had minds of their own. His other hands were scratching the cement floor. Some played rock, paper, scissors, reminding Naruto of the days he spent in Konoha playing cards by himself. Still, others made shadow puppets on the wall. If Briares were in a band, he could play all instruments on his own. I cannot, Briares moaned. Camp is back. The Titans are rising. We will for sure be thrown back into Tartarus. Put on your brave face, Tyson advised. Percy watched Briares struggle a bit. Then, his face morphed into something else. There were the same brown eyes, but the other features were different. He had an upturned nose, arched eyebrows, and a weird smile that looked creepy with the straining that he was doing. He didn't even hold it for a second, and just like that, it returned to what they had seen before. Briares shook his head. No good, my scared face keeps coming back. Wow. If Percy wasn't impressed by the hands with minds of their own, this did the trick. How did you do that? That just earned an elbow from Annabeth. Don't be rude, she scolded. They have around 50 different faces. Must be hard to get a yearbook picture. Percy commented. Like you already tried to take one. Naruto teased his best friend. Hey, I resent that. The son of Poseidon protested. I already tried taking one in Merryweather. I'm surprised you lasted a whole year there, Naruto kept on the tease. Hey, I would have stayed longer if Mr. Blowfish didn't find a better school for me, Percy argued. Naruto tried to argue back, but both he and Percy were socked on the arm by a very irritated Annabeth. Now's not the time for that. She shushed them. Percy just stuck out his tongue while Naruto made a face. Tyson wasn't bothered by the two demigods bickering. He was still entranced at the thought of meeting one of his heroes. It will be okay, Briares. We will help you. Can I have your autograph? Naruto and Percy sweet-dropped. They were amazed at how Tyson could say that all in one breath and at such a transition as well. Do you have 100 pens? The Hecatonkaias asked. Can we deal with that later? Grover whimpered. Camp will be back sooner or later. We have to get out of here. Tyson, break the bars so he can get out. Naruto said. Briares can do it. Tyson smiled proudly. 100-handed ones are much stronger than Cyclops. If he's so strong, then why is he stuck in jail? Percy asked again like that wasn't an insult. Annabeth elbowed him again. This time in the ribs. You are being so rude today. She spoke. He's terrified right now. How would you feel if you were tortured and imprisoned by Camp for 1,000 years? Fine. Percy nursed his aching rib cage. I get it. Briares covered his face again after hearing Annabeth's scolding. What's wrong, Briares? Tyson asked in concern. Show us your great strength. Naruto placed a hand on the young Cyclops' shoulder. I think it's better if you did it, big guy. The happiness in Tyson's face slowly melted away. Without another word, Tyson ripped the metal doors off their hinges like they were made of clay. Come on, Briares. Annabeth held out a hand. Let's get you out of there. For a slow second, his face morphed into that of a hopeful expression. Several of his arms slowly reached out to reach for her, but twice as many shot out to slap them away. I cannot, he once again returned to his terrified face. She will punish me. Don't think like that, Naruto spoke up. You fought the Titans before, isn't that right? Do you remember the outcome? The war. Briares reminisced on the days he and the gods fought the Titans. He remembered hurling rocks, then lightning shook the earth. We won but just barely. Now they are getting stronger. They have all the more chance to win this time around. Naruto sighed. It was hard passing on his optimism to someone as pessimistic as this one. Percy stepped forward. Naruto felt that this was one of his adoptive brother's glimmers of brilliance. Then let's make a bet, Percy said smugly. Everyone looked at him like he grew a second head. Percy, what are you? Annabeth tried to stop Percy, but Naruto held up his hand. I think this will work, Naruto said with a confident smirk. Percy pounded his fist on an open palm 3 times. Let's play rock, paper, scissors. Briares looked at the son of Poseidon, his face morphing into his doubtful face. What's the use? I always win rock, paper, scissors. I think you'll this game very interesting, Naruto added, remembering that particular game that even he did not win, depending on how you look at it. Fine, what are the conditions? Briares' face showed that of curiosity. 1 game of rock, paper, scissors, Percy stated. If I win, you come with us. If I lose, we leave you here, and we won't try to convince you to leave this jail anymore. Tyson looked at him incredulously, but Naruto placed a hand of reassurance on his shoulder. The 2 players readied their hands. Percy repeated his motion with his right hand over his left palm. Briares did the same, except his 100 hands sounded like a whole army marching ready for battle. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. They both shouted. The Hecatonkaias' hands were not all the same. There was an avalanche of rocks, a set of scissors more than enough for an entire classroom, and enough papers to make a fleet of airplanes. As for Percy, his hand shot out an unfamiliar sign that confused everyone in the room. See, I always win, Briares said sadly without even looking. Are you sure? Percy said smugly. Briares opened his eyes. Wait, what is that? It's a gun, Naruto repeated the words Paul told him some time ago. A gun beats everything. That's not fair. Briares protested. Well, Camp's not going to be fair when she comes back either. She's going to blame you for destroying the bars. Percy reasoned. Now, I believe I have won this little game of ours, so get up on your feet. We have to get out of here. Briares sniffled, but his face was no longer depressed. You demigods are cheaters. Slowly rising to his feet, he walked out of the cage. That's the spirit. Tyson clapped happily, now that his hero has come back to his senses. Hope filled up the spirits of our heroes. All they had to do was get downstairs and find the entrance they came through. They all began to turn to leave, but Tyson froze. Down below, in their supposed destination, was the jailer. And she did not look happy. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.